Now, schizoaffective disorder is a mental condition that causes both a loss of contact with reality and mood problems. This disorder usually begins in the late teen years or into early adulthood, but it can actually be diagnosed at a much earlier age, as we found out when an Albuquerque mother appeared on Wednesday's episode of Ricky Lake to share the heartbreaking story of how her 8-year-old daughter suffers from this lifelong mental health condition. Take a look at this clip.
Stop. Stop. Tell me what's wrong.
I can't.
Why?
My ghosts are telling me that too.
Well,
If I tell them, I will be mean even more.
Please welcome Kristen. Thank you for being here. It's really important that you're here to share your story. Tell us about Pickles. When did you first notice that something was not? She's adopted.
She's adopted. I was at the hospital when she was born, so she's always been with me. But when she first was starting to talk, we had a morning routine. Every morning we'd get breakfast, get ready for daycare work, all that. And I would always ask her, how'd you dream last night? Did you have good dreams? You know, she could barely count to 10 at that time, but every morning for about a year and a half, 2 years, the answer was the same, 36. Dreamt about 36. Sometimes 36 was scary, sometimes 36 was happy.
36 was a person?
A number.
So
Just
then,
a number.
Okay.
And then after a few months, it got to be a little odd. And then after a few more months, it got to be a little scary. And that was kind of my first thing. And at that point, I'm thinking she's got an imagination. She's just creative.
When you say it got scary, what describe to us?
Because it was every morning. And then that kind of started to dissipate a little bit. And then when she was 2.5, she started to have some trouble in preschool. She started hiding under the table. She didn't want to play with the other kids. And one day I had her in the car, and she was in the back seat. We came to a stoplight, and she starts screaming in the back seat. And I look in the back, and she's clawing at her arms to make them bleed and screaming. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I pull over, try and get her calmed down. And she was screaming, there's bugs in my blood. I have to get them out. They're hurting me. They're biting me. I mean, she had just had...
Well, Kristen Hansen joins us here on New Mexico Style this morning, and I want to let you know that the title of the episode we just saw was Inside Childhood Mental Illness. We did just see a very short clip, but a very powerful one indeed. So thank you for joining us today. Kristen, when did you realize that there was something different about your daughter?
The story with the 36, that was the beginning when it was a little odd. The tactile hallucinations, when those started. But when her imaginary friends, when her ghost friends started to get mean, when they started to convince her to do mean things. Every kid has imaginary friends, but not every kid's imaginary friends tells them, you know, to punch holes in the wall or to hurt themselves. And it was at that point that I knew something was a little bit different than normal.
Well, we want to help people out there, so can you tell us, what does schizoaffective disorder look like in an 8-year-old child?
In an 8-year-old, it looks like very extreme mood cycling.
Okay.
She can go from happy and giggly 1 minute to screaming, yelling, punching, putting her head through walls the next minute. She disassociates from reality. She doesn't know days of the week. She can't tell you what time of the day it is. And she just loses sense of where she is in space and reality.
Okay.
What's real, what isn't. A lot of times when I'm with her, she'll ask me, is that real? Is that person real? Or she'll go and try and touch something just to make sure it's really there.
Gosh, so, okay, well, I want to let everybody know that for privacy purposes, you refer to her as Pickles. That's her nickname. So cute. So what are her biggest challenges with her mental illness?
Her biggest challenges are just peer and relationships with other people,
okay.
Especially with other kids. Other kids tend to get frightened of her.
Sure.
You know, when they're playing a game and all of a sudden she starts talking to the pillow. And the pillow is very real, and you know, the pillow is saying we need to play the game this way, and we're going to play it this way or else. You know, kids just kind of back off.
So that's a challenge for her, but as a parent, what's the struggle for you? What is the biggest struggle when you're dealing with a child who has such a significant mental illness?
The biggest challenge for me is just getting her the services and the care she needs, because it is so rare in a child her age to have this diagnosis. You know, We've moved several times trying to find doctors, trying to find hospitals to care for her, getting her access to the medications she needs because they're not typically approved for kids.
So for people out there who are dealing with the kind of struggles you are, what would you want them to know about children with mental illness?
Not to be scared of them.
Okay.
You know, if you see a child out and they're obviously having issues, they're obviously disassociating from reality, they're screaming, they're yelling, you don't have to be afraid of them. Just give them the space they need.
Okay.
Don't point, don't make fun of them, makes it worse. And just know they're not to be afraid of.
That's a really good piece of advice. And I want people to know that Pickles has actually been living in a residential treatment center and pediatric psychiatric hospital for the last 2 years. So what are your hopes for your daughter?
Well, she's actually going to be released and come home by the end of this month. And I'm real excited about that. And so my hopes are just that she can go back to school somehow, some kind of school, and just try and have somewhat of a normal childhood.
Well, I thank you for sharing such a personal story with us, and I hope so much that it helps other people out there, and I wish nothing but good things for you and Pickles. Thank you so much, Kirsten.